Welcome, travelers, to my realm of nightmares. Allow me to be your personal assistant. Come in, take a seat, get comfortable. For when you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.
Trickles of silence fell all around me as my heart quickened. There he is! I had seen him for weeks. He was there, always on my train, always on my bus. He was always on my journey home, always just behind me. He had been there, on my path, following my tread through the dark and rainy October nights, around the turns and beneath the tall trees, for almost a month now. He was a constant, a predictable shadow which predictably followed me every single time. He was a measurement of time, a guarantee and a reoccurring moment that could always be counted upon. He was my steps in reverse, a line of history which followed every moment, and he was here yet again, a few stops behind me, bathed within the glow of the moon, as he continued to mimic my movements verbatim, as I continued down the dark and winding turns of the country lane which led me home. Tonight, the world contained a glow, and the path before us was bathed within pure silence. The storm had been raging for weeks. The streets, paved in concrete, were still soaked from the previous onslaught, and they struggled desperately to maintain their purpose. Huge puddles collected by the side of the road, a magnetic target for seldom passing cars. The darkness around burned ablaze with sensations as the fresh smell of water against grass wafted from the trees on the border of the tight and lonely road. There's nobody around. We're all alone. The man behind me was ever my companion, the only other soul that dared to walk this road, this street, a road drowned in moonlight, a path that had long been forgotten. My home was not far, but the journey tonight, the journey, well, it would last forever. Ever since I had moved here, I had been made to endure the draconian commute. My employer had been less than accommodating. When I had explained the mitigating circumstances surrounding my relocation, and he had insisted upon my continued presence within the obsolete working space formerly known as my office. A presence must be upheld. A company must have a face. And that was their excuse. That was their reason for insisting that a young, single woman make a solitary trip all alone down a dark and dangerous path. That was their method, and ultimately, without a choice, that was my madness. My new home was secluded. The only road which led anywhere was a desolate and cold road. On a busy day, the road would be abandoned. Traffic would be limited to no more than 2 passing cars every hour. At night, however, the road did not exist. When the sun set and everyone had found their slumber, the road would be no more than a ghost, albeit a spirit of a pathway that contained little to no discernible life to begin with. It stretched for 3 miles, connecting the remote residential development I had come to call home with the main service road, which in turn provided transportation to the closest train station. It was essentially dead, only used by those with no other option. Unfortunately for me, I now fell under that category. It was quite fitting, really. Control over anything within life had never really been within my grasp, so why should that change now? Looking back now, I guess I always knew that it was always going to happen. After all, I was small, I was little, I was alone, and more importantly, I was afraid. They obviously saw me coming. They were drunk, they were loud, and they were unrestricted, but thankfully, they were mostly bluster. They approached me when I was alone one night, as I made my way home. It started with a few inappropriate comments and steadily progressed to a general lack of restraint. They were close, they were uncomfortable, and ultimately they left a mark. By a grace, nothing obscene would actually taint me, but that night, the impression of fear that they personally imprinted upon me was hard to erase. The lingering thought of what could have was hard to shake, and suddenly, the terror was there, and it manifested itself so perfectly. After all, that particular fear was all too familiar. It was the reason that I moved, the reason that I shut myself away, the reason that I moved my life, lifted it from its foundation, and forced it stark against the unfamiliar surroundings that I now found myself within. It was the reason for my solitude, and the reason for my distrust of those opposite of me. It was the reason my heart quickened when I was alone on a dark road with an unfamiliar man. But it was not that reason that caused my heart to strain tonight. My heart can barely contain the emotion. The moon was noticeable in the sky, its wonderful white gracing our path in the serene splendor. The trees swayed as the rain fell around us as we walked in tandem down the dark and empty road. His steps echoed throughout the nothingness, revealing his proximity as they serenaded the sound of impending doom, clapping its way louder behind my way. Something bad is about to happen. The rain above me seemed to fall heavier as I heard him close the distance. This is it. It had all happened before. I had been in this position before. I knew all of the fear. I knew the terror, the uncertainty, and the apprehension. I was familiar with the feeling of helplessness, of feeling trapped, of feeling used, and of feeling abused. I knew all of the self-defeating thoughts that had swirled before. I knew of the storm which would rage within, but I also knew of the silence, the tranquility that would follow in the path of the revelation that had settled once the wind and rain had subdued. I knew of the purpose, and I knew of the strength which I had long forgotten. Behind me, his footsteps broke through the sound of the rain as he began his approach. 1 step, 2 step, he's getting closer. 3 step, 4 step, he's more than a few meters away from me. 5 steps, 6 steps, you are alone. You will always be alone. 7 steps, 8 steps, it's just you and him. 9 steps, 10 steps. Tonight, you take back control. The blade in my hand pierces the darkness of the night, travels through the rain, and through the unbreakable bonds of the silence, which held firm all around us. It tears through the solitude, breaking the boundaries of nothingness, shattering the raindrops in the air, as the firm steel sinks nicely into the soft, unsuspecting neck. Immediately, his eyes grow wide. Together, we share the moment. Time grinds as the raindrops fall in slow motion around us. His open, confused eyes glare wide in terror, locked in pure embrace within my own, a purity of a look which is only further exaggerated by the soft smell of dew escaping from the leaves and the bark to our flanks. We are alone, and we are one as the storm blesses our union, knife against flesh, past against present. No more, I utter, my words moving nicely through the fresh night air. I have suffered from men for far too long. It is clear that he does not understand. His eyes move in confusion as the blood seeps from the creation in his neck. How disappointing. I had expected the moment to be different, but as he looks upon me, a worried and lost expression pained across his unfamiliar face, it is clear that he cannot see the nature of my action. I can see that he does not understand the significance of what has been brought upon him, the symbolic nature of my intent, or the choice of his gender. I can see that he cannot quite comprehend the meaning of his demise or the message of my hand. I utter an unspoken word through my eyes as the color leaves his face, a stark white contrast among the darkness which envelops the moment. Almost too quickly, he falls to the ground. A wet shell of a man that used to contain a soul. No more. My whole life had been dominated by them. I have had to grow for them. I had to move and to adapt for them. I have had to be strong and grow stronger for them, but no more. Not anymore. They have created me, and now they will suffer their creation. He was only a symbol, a man on a train, a man that happened to live on the same crappy road as me. But what he represented, but what his lifeless husk would say, would be loud enough for them all to hear. No longer am I afraid. The soft, silent pelting of the rain caused a red stain to drip wet from my fingers. Tonight, my fear's been washed away, evaporated like raindrops in the night. Tonight's story was day 12 of my 13 Days of Halloween. It was written by the ever-talented Raymond Beaman. If you enjoyed this story, please check out his links. He is a fantastic author and a great friend of this channel. Hey, did you know I have merch? Yeah, crazy, right? But I do. And if you would like to walk around representing my realm and gaining me new travelers, the links will be in the description below. As always, I'd like to say a special thank you to my lovely Patreons, to 42 Reads, Rando Calrissian, Pam, Sidaphine, the Midnight Bard, Creepy Clown Girl, Mia Mina, Philia Noctis, Hair Raising Narratives, and Spooky Boo Scary Story Time. If you'd like to join these lovely travelers but are light on my fire, you can do so by becoming a Patreon as well. The support is always appreciated but never expected. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you're new, and ding that bell for all future content.
But as always, travelers, once you step into my realm, there's no stepping out.